Greetings and welcome to the CCOF Foundation Innovative Direct Marketing for Farmers webinar. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. This is an unprecedented time, and we know many of you are adjusting your marketing to address COVID-19 considerations. During today's webinar, Jamie Collins of Serendipity Farms will share how she pivoted her marketing in response to the pandemic. We hope the presentation will provide some ideas for you to consider, as well as resources for further exploration. This webinar is part of our Farmers Marketing Tools for Success series that provides tips and tools for farmers to strengthen their sales and income at farmers markets and other direct-to-consumer venues. Previous webinars have included social media marketing for farmers, as well as assessing crop profitability for farm business planning. Funding for this project was made possible by the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Agricultural Marketing Service. Please note the contents of the webinar do not necessarily represent the official views of the USDA. COVID-19 public health recommendations vary locally. This webinar is intended as an educational resource. It is not advice tailored to a specific farm operation or a substitute for regulations and guidance from the CDC, FDA, or other agencies. Check in with your local or county health authorities for any local guidelines of which you should be aware. If you're having difficulties connecting to the webinar, if you can't hear or can't see, please call our office for support at 831-423-2263. Press 0 for the operator and someone will help you connect to the webinar. My name is Megan Donovan. I will be your host today. I am a program specialist at the CCOF Foundation. The CCOF Foundation advances organic agriculture for a healthy world through education and hardship grants, technical assistance, and consumer education. Behind the scenes today, we have Robert Jones, CCOF's Operation Manager, providing webinar technical assistance. He'll be the one fielding questions when they come in and may hop on as an alternative host if any technical issues should arise. Before we get started with the main presentation, I wanted to let you know how you can participate in today's web event. We're looking at an example of the GoToWebinar attendee interface, which is made up of two parts: the viewer window on the left, which allows you to see everything the presenter will share on their screen, and the control panel on the right. Within the control panel is how you can participate in today's event, so let's take a look at that. By clicking the orange arrow, you can open and close your control panel. From the View menu, you can also let the control panel not auto-hide when inactive if you prefer to always keep it open. The audio pane provides audio information. By default, you have joined the webinar via mic and speakers. If you prefer, you can join the audio via telephone by selecting phone call, and the dial-in information will be displayed. Throughout the presentation, we'll stop from time to time for questions and answers. You can send questions to our webinar staff through the questions pane. Simply type in your question and click send. We will answer as many questions as we have time for. As a final reminder, today's webinar is being recorded, and everyone will receive an email with a link to view the recording of today's event, along with a PDF of the PowerPoint slides. Today, we also have a copy of the PDF of the PowerPoint slides available for download through GoToWebinar. Click on the blue file name of the handout in the Handouts pane. A PDF of the slides will appear in your internet browser. You can view them in your browser or download them onto your computer. To expand or collapse the Handouts pane, click on the triangle next to the name of the pane. For example, if you can't see the box of the questions pane, click on the triangle and it will expand to show the box. So we wanted to encourage you to test out the questions pane and write in. Let us know where you're calling in from today and what you produce on your farm. And we'll loop back around to that information a little later in the presentation. And just to let you know, we have a nice crowd today, and so we are going to try to get to as many questions and comments as possible. We apologize if we don't get to your specific question and encourage you to follow up after the webinar. So thanks again for attending today. And with that, I'd like to introduce our presenter, Jamie Collins, is owner of Serendipity Farms near Monterey, California. She's farmed organically for 2 decades. She sells produce via farmers markets, CSAs, and other direct-to-consumer outlets. On the side, she works as an organic inspector and writes about food and farming for various publications. So Jamie, thank you so much for being here today. I know it's busy this time of year, and we appreciate you taking the time to share your experience with us.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. So today we're going to be talking about innovative direct marketing for farmers. So we were going to talk about all these things listed here, how to stand out at the farmers market and what customers respond to, and making a connection to the farm, samples, handing out samples, using the sense of fresh produce, flowers, and herbs to get people to come to your booth. But things have changed with COVID-19, and we've been planning this webinar since January, so we changed it up a little to talk about how to navigate during COVID-19 times. And so some examples of how things are different right now at the farmers market: samples aren't allowed any longer, customers aren't allowed to touch the produce, everyone has to have space between each other and shop one at a time, etc. So I'm going to talk about how my farm has dealt with that and some ideas for pivoting your marketing. So the overview is if you are thinking about starting a CSA, there'll be some things to consider and how to cater to your market customers during COVID-19 times, staying connected with people and creating community even though we're socially distant right now and it's a little bit hard. So those are some of the things I'm going to cover today. So I had stopped with our CSA. We had about 350 members, and we used a virtual farm stand Facebook group instead. After our CSA started to go down in response to all the meal kits that people were signing up for and online delivered to your door. So I used my existing network from that virtual farm stand to restart my CSA when my sales started to tank from the farmers market. In the beginning, it seemed like people weren't going to come to the markets, and I was really nervous that I wouldn't have a home for all my produce. So I used that to say, hey, everybody, do you want to sign up for 4 weeks of produce pickup at the farm? I did the 4 weeks because it was a low commitment for both the farm and for the customers, and it was a reasonable price. And we also just kind of didn't know what things were going to look like. You know, month to month, I thought we should take it. So that seemed to work for people. I got about 75 signups within 2 weeks. And people were really happy with it. They felt safer to pick up at the farm. And we structured our pickup to accommodate social distancing. So if you are thinking about starting a CSA, there's a lot of things to consider. And one of them is that CSAs require a lot of customer service and staff time to answer the CSA member questions and concerns. You're also going to need to write weekly newsletters and social media posts to connect with your members and explain what is going to be in the box and maybe give them some cooking tips or some recipes and tell them what's coming next. You know, you can't make everyone happy. You're just not going to make everyone happy, so you're going to have to deal with some people that aren't happy. Maybe they expect tomatoes in their box in May and you don't have tomatoes till August. So there's always going to be some of those people. And you may end up spending a lot more time in your office at a computer than at the farm. So that's something to consider if you're wanting to start a CSA. Also, you need to really set clear expectations with your CSA members regarding what they'll receive in the box each week. If you're going to allow them to choose what they get to have in their box or swap the contents out of the box. If you do that, you're going to need to label the boxes individually instead of them all being the same, which adds extra work. And you also need to think about the logistics of the CSA pickup locations and the times and how that works for you and for the people picking up. And you have to think about what happens to their box if they don't pick it up. Does it get donated? Do you leave it out and just, you know, you're not responsible for it after that? So you need to be able to explain that to them. And also if you're willing to offer refunds or hold their box for one time or two when they maybe are going on vacation, that's something that we do because that seems like we add it to the end. And if they're signed up for a full season, then we just allow them to have credit. So, but you have to decide whether you want to do that. And then you create an agreement document that the CSA customer will sign acknowledging the terms of their commitment. I feel that's really important because, you know, if everything opens up again, say with COVID-19 and people want to start shopping again and they feel safe, but you've already spent their money on seeds and plants and boxes or whatever, you know, it'd be really hard to be able to give people a refund. So it's important to, you know, have the CSA customer sign acknowledging the terms of their commitment and what's expected of both of you. And so since everything rotates in our box every week, I like to explain it like this. You'll receive at least one fruit in your box each week, a selection of salad and hearty greens, various roots, and the rest rotates when things come into season. For example, peas and favas in the spring, tomatoes, zucchini, peppers in the summer to fall, and winter squash and potatoes in the winter. So I like to give them some, it's important, I think, to give them salad greens, but you don't want to put so many greens in the box because they're very perishable and a lot of people have a hard time getting through too many greens. So I think it's important to have some in there, but also to make sure there's some, you know, some root crops and carbohydrate rich produce in there as well. So you'll have to think of the coordination that goes into starting a CSA and, you know, if you're going to want to use CSA software programs, which really help with coordinating members and they help set the expectation with the members. A lot of the CSA software will remind people when they're supposed to pick up so that you don't have to do that and then you have less boxes wasted or people forgetting and calling you. Also, a lot of the software will remind them when they're coming to the end of their share if they want to renew, which is very helpful. Just know that if you do plan to not have CSA programs, there's a lot of room for error on the farmer side and the customer side. And so you've got to have a lot of patience. So some things to consider when you're choosing software. I've had, over the years, 2 different types of software systems, CSA software systems, and I've found issues with both of them. So, you know, none of them are perfect, but they do overall make your life more easy. And so some of them take a % of sales. Most of them have an upfront cost to get your farm information uploaded to the site, but some include website development if you need that, so that could be helpful for you. Some have some better technical support, and as I said, each program has their strengths and weaknesses, and it's sometimes hard to know until you get one and start playing around with it to figure out, wow, I would really like to be able to do this, and that doesn't work for you, or you know, things like that. So it's important to look into that, maybe ask other farmers why they like their program, and read reviews. A lot of companies will kind of give you an overall videos that you can watch so you can see how it works. Some are a lot more intuitive than others, and some are really hard to figure out. And if you're a busy farmer, then you have a hard time learning a whole new software system like I did this spring. You know, you might want to ask what your friends are, your farmer friends are doing, and if they think it's simple and easy and why they like it. So here's some resources for online sales software, and that also includes CSA software that you could check out. So there's some things to consider when you are creating your box. You want to make sure the box is diverse. So if you don't have a lot of variety, or like I said, maybe you're heavy on greens, but you don't have any fruit or any roots or something hardier in the box, you can buy in from other organic farms, or you can buy in from organic wholesalers. You can trade with other farmer friends of yours. You can add value-added things that you've already made, jams, pickles, dried beans, whatever, sun-dried tomatoes, anything that you might have saved from the last season. That's always appreciated. And I like to include items that store well, especially in the beginning with everything with the COVID-19, you know, people were kind of freaking out about if they were going to have enough food. And so I felt it was really important to put winter squash in there, and I put some beans and dried beans and lentils in there, lots of root vegetables, just things that last. I think that also is helpful because if they don't get to it, it'll still be there the next week and they won't feel like they wasted. Wasting produce was always one of the reasons that CSA members often said they didn't want to keep going, because they felt bad that they didn't get to all the produce. So I think having things that store better will eliminate some of that, some of those problems. Also, when I pack the box, or when I'm picking out what I want to put in the box, I think about things that go together. So pairings of, you know, tomatoes with cilantro or basil. So, you know, for salsa or for sauce. Hot peppers and tomatillos, for example, for salsa. Mint and limes for cocktails. Just anything that goes together, and then that way, when you're writing your newsletter to your members, you can, you know, say, if I had these things, this is what I would do with this, you know, and give them some ideas of how to use everything. So organic record keeping for CSAs. Software systems, it can keep track of what's packed in the boxes, which will help you comply with your audit trail for the organic requirements. So that's one good reason to have some software. If you buy or you trade in produce, you need to keep organic certificates for each supplier that you're sourcing from. And also the invoices or the receipts for all of the bought or traded produce. So even if you don't buy it, you need to have some sort of record showing that you received it. You may need to update your organic system plan to reflect your new sales avenue if you weren't you know, selling through a CSA before. And if you have any questions, it's just important to reach out to your organic certifier and ask. So about pickup site logistics, what we're doing at our farm. So our CSA boxes are pre-packed, and we pack them in new plastic bags to limit handling, and we put them in our RPC totes, the plastic black totes. And our staff hand out the shares to people, and they check off their name from the list so that not a bunch of people are touching the same pen. So that's helpful. And our members are waiting in their cars to pick up their CSA or standing back and giving space. One person is served at a time, and that limits the contact with the product and the people. We have a 2.5-hour window to hand out our boxes, and most of our CSA boxes are picked up at our farm location. So we have about 60 people picking up at that one location. And so it seems to work out really well. People are respecting, you know, the space and walking up one by one. But you might need to explain or put signs out, you know, to let people know how you would like them to manage this and give each other space. So how do you promote your CSA? I like to talk to groups that I'm already involved in, community groups, parent groups, and let them know about your box. Neighbors next door is always good. That's helpful. Of course, using your farm and your personal social media pages to let people know that you're doing this. You can get listed on Local Harvest. for free, and edible magazine publications too. And then word of mouth is a really great way. Once people are happy, they start telling their friends, and then you get more, it seems like more customers sign on. You can always pay for an internet ad, like for example on Facebook, and that seems to, the ads seem to go in the area that you're actually delivering the boxes. So I don't know how, but somehow they figured it out. And so here's the pros of CSA. It allows less contact with the public in comparison with farmers markets, and exposes less of your workers to the general population. It really helps out your local community. I've found that people really are appreciating their local food shed when they realize when there's a pandemic. So it's been really nice to reconnect with the community again. And the CSA helps you pay for upfront costs like seeds, land leases, etc., which is always nice. So it looks like there's a few more cons for CSA. You may not have planned to start a CSA when you started planting your crops, so this is going to take away from your market offerings. One way I dealt with that is to, buy in more things for my CSA so that I can still sell things at the market because of that I have grown. So you can do that to sort of adjust. And you're going to need 1 to 2 days for picking and packing, which really cuts into time doing other necessary farm activities. And honestly, that was a huge one for us. I felt like we were working 6 days a week, 10-hour days practically, just to try and catch up instead of having 2 days off in a row, which is one of the reasons why we sort of let the CSA go. So another con is there's more involved customer service, which can be exhausting. It'd be nice if you had a person dedicated for that. You need patience to learn new CSA software. And as I said before, you're going to spend more time on the computer. It's really a good job for someone that is good with logistics and is patient. So here's some additional resources for setting up your CSA. If you'd like to check these out, they're helpful. And we're going to open it up for some questions now.
Great. Thank you, Jamie, for that. Kind of some good things to consider when you're deciding whether to start a CSA or not. So we're going to open it up for questions. Please send in your questions through the questions pane, and we'll get to those. And just to start off with, to let you know that who we have in the audience today, we have folks from California, and amongst them they produce avocados, squash, coffee, row crops, and tree fruit and almonds. We also have a couple of people attending from New Jersey and New Hampshire that produce a sheep farmer and medical herbs. So it's great to have everybody online. And so to kind of start off with, Jamie, how do you estimate the cost of a share and how much to include in the box?
Well, I kind of go off farmers market prices, and then I round down, honestly. So, or I think about, so my box is a $30 box. And so, for example, today I think we had 9 items in the box, and it was a value of $35. So they're, so I sort of add everything up with my farmers market prices in mind, and then I go over by at least $3 to $5, sometimes more, depending on if we have a lot of something that we can share. But they're usually getting about a $5 to $8, discount for doing the CSA. Is there another question? Megan? Hello?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, we have some questions coming in, and someone had asked if you could go back to the previous slide. So just
Okay.
move back one. And also, here, I can do that.
Okay.
Whoops. And also, we'll be sending out a PDF of the slides, so you'll have links to all of these that you can click on and address. So someone was also wondering if you know of any sample CSA member agreements or could talk a little bit about what you include in your member agreement.
I don't know of any samples, but I do let people know that we don't give refunds, that they could gift it to somebody if they'd like, or put it on hold, or have credit at the farm or the farmer's market. So that's in my agreement. And then also about pickups, if they don't pick up at the time that was, agreed upon, that we actually will leave their share unattended. And so at that point, we're not responsible for anything that happens to it after that. So that's basically what's in my agreement, but I don't have a sample. But there might be on some of those resource links,
Great, thanks.
Yeah. I think it's important to just decide what works for you, and then, make sure that you include that. Think about all the things and all the ways it could go wrong, and then, and then try and make sure that you have these agreements in place. And a lot of times with the software, they have to read it and click accept before they can move forward. So that's a really, you have it digitally. I think that's important.
Okay. Good things to consider. So also, what type of payment system do you use for your virtual farm stand, or when you're collecting money from the public?
Well, now it's through Stripe, through the software that I'm using, but previously when I would do the group, the virtual farm stand group, I would use PayPal. I mean, you could use Venmo. People seem like they like Venmo better now. I think PayPal is sort of old school, but whatever one that you like to use that people are using, or multiple ones. Square, you could use Square even, but they take a %. So, and I'm not really sure if Venmo takes a %, but I know if PayPal, if you choose friends and family, then they don't take a %. So that's why I like using PayPal.
Great, thanks. And we did have someone just write in with a example CSA membership agreement, so we will send that link out in the follow-up email.
Great.
And good. So I think we're gonna move on to the next section unless there are any other questions that are coming in. So let's see just a sec here. So there's a question coming in about coordinating with other farmers. To offer a diversity of product, and if you could talk a little bit more about that.
Okay, well, if I'm going to put it in the box, in the CSA box, I just coordinate that with different farmer friends, like through texting, and let them know what I need. And like, for instance, we're trading blueberries right now for cauliflower today. Today we brought in cauliflower and some lettuce. Our lettuce isn't ready yet, so we we work with other farms that are maybe in a little warmer area, so they're ahead of us on things. That way people can get all of those summer vegetables early since we're more coastal. But so I just coordinate things like that just through emails and texting. But as far as, I also sell separately other add-on items like microgreens from another small farm, even coffee from a woman-owned coffee roaster locally, olive oils, things like that. But I do that separately, actually. I don't have it on my web store currently because I'm still figuring out the software for that. But I do offer those things on my virtual farm stand, and people will PayPal me for those things and then comment that what they want in that way. So, but I'm working to put it on the web store. I just need more time. Just too busy to figure out all that right now. But it would be on the web store eventually.
All right, great, thanks. So I think we're gonna wrap up for this section, but we're gonna have a couple other more question and answer sessions throughout the presentation. So if you have additional questions, feel free to send them in. And also just to note, we've gotten quite a good number of additional resources for CSA information. So we will also include that in our follow-up email for folks. So the next section, Jamie's going to talk a little bit about marketing at farmers markets during COVID-19 and how she's shifted her marketing. And while we're going to touch on social distancing and COVID-19 worker safety practices, neither Jamie and I are experts in the matter. And this is a webinar focused on marketing, so we're really going to focus on that topic. But that said, there are a lot of resources out there that do go into more depth about COVID-19, social distancing, and worker safety for farmers and farmers markets. And so if you're looking for more information on those areas, here are some resources to consider. And first and foremost, like, always check in with your local health departments, your county health departments, for local guidance that you should be aware of. And also for direct marketing too. Some places you may need to register a CSA. So it just kind of depends where you are. And for farmers market specific topics, the California Alliance of Farmers Markets has a lot of great COVID-19 resources, and they're keeping those up to date. And so does the Farmers Market Coalition. And for food safety and worker safety, there's also a lot of good resources out there, from Community Alliance of Family Farmers, as well as UC Cooperative Extension and Cal OSHA, the Center of Disease Control. And there's a lot more out there that we haven't included. So check in with your local organizations for local specific information. So with that, I will hand things back to you, Jamie.
Okay, so I'm going to just talk about some of the adjustments that our farm has made in light of all that's going on. And also the farmers market has made quite a few adjustments as well. The stall setup prevents customers from coming into the stall. And so what we do is we set the tables across the front of the stall so that people don't come in and get stuck. We have the entrance and exit labeled to facilitate the movement of the customers and social distancing. I have my staff remind the customers to keep a 6-foot distance from people and remind them to tell, to tell each other that. And we use tables and bins that can be sanitized. Right now we're not using wicker baskets, and we weren't using tablecloths for a while, but now we are again, and I'm just making sure that we wash them after every market. I just couldn't bear to see an ugly table out for very much longer, but But first we were, you know, just sanitizing the tables and putting the produce on plain tables. But now we're washing the tablecloths between each market. So when we don't reuse pint containers, we have a you touch it, you buy it policy, and of course nobody's sampling anything right now at the market. We also, I don't know if you saw that, the first picture, we have all these really cute new recycled grab and go containers that we're using that people appreciate, and using as little plastic as possible. But Megan, it's not, can you give me control of it? Thank you. So we also had a training with our employees about, you know, hand washing and glove use, how to appropriately take off the gloves and throw them away, and making sure that they're putting them in trash bags and not just tossing them in the back of the van or in a tote. All of our workers are using masks all the time. We're cleaning and sanitizing the equipment. Of course, if anyone feels any kind of sickness at all, they stay home. We have hand sanitizers available for the workers. I'm having them wipe down the inside of the van where they've touched everything, so that when the next person gets in there, it's all, you know, it's all sanitized. And well, we also have, you know, new things in place for market setup, for the management and the breakdown of it. So we have a specified person for handling money that doesn't touch any of the product. They just touch money and the numbers on the scale, and the customer puts the food on the scale, and then that's how we deal with that. If we have, right now we do have 2 people working the booth, so one person will gather the produce and for the customers, and the other one just manages the cash box and the numbers on the scale. Okay, forward.
If it's, try clicking on the image of the slide.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so also we want to cater to the market customers during COVID-19. We found that customers really want to move through the market as quick as possible and get what they need and go. They want produce and products that are handled by as few people as possible. And they want to pick up prepackaged items that have already been paid for ahead of time, or something that they can just quickly grab. So really important to bag up loose greens. So we have like $5 bags of our spinach and arugula, things like that. Mesh potato bags make it easy for people to not be handling all the potatoes. It also helps people move along quickly, which helps you with your sales, because if they're taking all this time to bag their own potatoes and their greens, you're going to have a lot less customers. And because some of the markets are only allowing a certain amount of customers in at a time to the actual market, you really need those customers to move quick so that you can make what you're used to making at the market. Some other grab and go ideas, of course, 3-packs. 3-packs of different kinds of berries. A salsa 3-pack, for example, you could put cherry tomatoes and small peppers and tomatillos in one. Just think about, like, again, things that go together. If you want to do a prepackaged veggie box, you can have a sign and a price, or you can have people pay ahead. Maybe you advertise it on social media and then they just come and grab it. We've been selling flats of berries to people and allowing them to, text us when they're driving by, and we've had one of our workers run out a flat to them so they don't have to come in the market if they don't feel comfortable coming to the market. So that's an option if you have enough workers to be able to do that. And you really also want to support your markets to help them remain open. So really important for all your workers to follow the protocols And some market associations are requiring wash stations for workers. They're requiring that you provide gloves and masks. And the rules seem to be changing quickly, so just make sure you're up to date on all the protocols. And also have your market workers remind the customers of the rules so that they can also comply, because we don't want to get shut down. And there we are. So anybody have any questions about that?
Great, yeah, so we're gonna open it back up for questions again. And we did have a comment come in referring back to the CSA section of the presentation, just reminding everybody that in California, the CSAs should check in about registering with CDFA. So that's something to check out if you're considering a CSA. And in terms of the farmers markets, what's selling well for you right now at the market, Jamie?
Well, we're in the middle of blueberries right now. So blueberries and strawberries. Our spinach does really well. Baby arugula, peas, English peas, snap peas, avocados. We have a lot of avocados right now, and those are the big hitters. Oftentimes we'll just do a blueberry market, like a single stall with blueberries and avocados and peas or something like that. And then we do some other markets with everything. So, but the blueberries, fruit is definitely, people like the sweet stuff. So for the fruit right now.
Great, thanks. And so we haven't had too many questions come in, so I think we'll just move on. And then if people have more questions about the farmers market, we can get back to that in the last section of the webinar.
Okay, the next section is I wanted to talk about staying connected and creating community. So it just seemed really important during these times to help your community by growing their own food, helping them grow their own food, maybe, and also helping other farmers sell their products and artisans that might be struggling, and connecting with people through digital media, since we can't see each other in person very well right now.
Oops.
Sorry. Oh, okay. And just wanted to mention, here we are again. These are my friends that I missed, and before social distancing and keeping away. So anyway. Okay, so supporting others in growing food. So you can also sell vegetable and herb starts to people. If you, sometimes you might have extra plants that you have slated for your farm, but you don't have enough space, or you want to intentionally grow some plants for people. That's a good way to support other people right now in growing their own food. But you need to check in with your organic certifier about that to find out what's required to sell your plants as organic. And also check in with your county ag commissioner regarding nursery licenses. We've been selling some plants at our CSA pickup spots, and it's actually taken off really well. We've been selling tomatoes and peppers and cucumbers, and also different kinds of bok choy and lettuce and kales and chards and things. And people seem to really appreciate it, since they're really into gardening now. So I felt that was a community service thing to do for people. Also, yeah, helping other farmers and artisans sell their products. Supporting other farmers is really important. It adds to your offerings, and it keeps things exciting. And we've been talking with restaurant friends of ours about collaborating to sell meal kits, which could include, our produce or your produce, with some of the things that they have available. So that's another way to help your local community. And then also staying connected digitally. So things you can share with social media is gardening advice. So if you are providing plants, that's a really good thing to do, is offer some gardening advice so that people are set up for success. Recipe sharing, encourage other CSA members to share their recipes too, and what they like to do with the food that they receive. Yeah, and again, helping other farmers or artisans sell their products. And it's a good way to let people know what you're selling and what's in season and what's coming next. I use all three of these platforms. I use Instagram because it connects to Facebook, and it will also connect to Twitter if you'd like. The Facebook group, I think, is really important, and that's what I use to launch this season CSA. Creating a group on Facebook, it catches your customers more than just posting it on your actual farm page, because it alerts them that there's a post, and people are encouraged to be interactive there, and it's really great for building online community. And then, yes, as I said, Instagram will link to Facebook, so that the same information is repeated, so you don't have to do it twice. It saves a lot of time. And some people like to use one of the platforms more than the other, so that way you're able to catch more people's attention if you link them. And Twitter, it's used for short text and to relay quick information. And you can also, as I said, link Twitter from an Instagram post. Really good for announcing CSA drops, or if you're in an area and you're selling something, just to be able to tell people, this is where I'm going to be from this time to this time. If you want to pick up a flat of berries or whatever you have available, that's a really helpful way to get in touch with people. Of course, sending emails. There's various email platforms that can create newsletter type format. I know MailChimp is free for up to 2,000 email addresses, so that's a good one to use. And then blog posts would be off your website. They'd have to go to your website to sign up to get it, and then the posts are automatically sent to those people that signed up. Here we're at the questions again. Does anybody have any questions on social media?
Great, thank you. So yeah, if you have any questions on social media or farmers markets, please write in. Someone was wondering, how much time do you spend on social media a week?
Well, right now we're selling a lot of, I'm selling a lot of flats of berries because we're having a really big bumper crop year of blueberries. So I'm on it a lot more than I want to be, but normally, maybe 45 minutes a day, but it's longer right now, especially on the days that we have pickups at the farm on Tuesdays and Fridays of flats of berries. So then it gets a little, I'm on it a lot more, just checking, seeing who's ordering that way. But it can be up to, 2 hours a day at some points, but it's in little increments, so it doesn't feel like that long. But, you hear it come in and you've made another sale. So I would say anywhere from a half hour to 2 hours, depending on how much, what you're selling and how interactive you are with social media and people. Yeah.
Great, thanks. And then another question was, can you elaborate on how you develop the restaurant meal kits? And they commented that that's a brilliant idea.
Oh, cool. Yeah, a friend of mine has a restaurant, an Italian restaurant, and they also obviously had a bunch of supplies that they bought in for the restaurant, their Italian specialty stuff. So we talked about, making a kit with, providing the fresh pasta that they make with some of the sauce, their Italian sauce, and then, with some of our salad, like a whole salad and pasta box, or with a bottle of wine, or, just adding different, whatever the produce would fit to go in with those various things that we were talking about doing. And it'd be like a meal for 4 people with appetizers. You know, one of the things we were putting in there was fava beans, because they always did this really amazing fava bean dish with so yeah, we would put our fava beans in there. So sort of giving recipes to some of the things that that restaurant people loved at the restaurant, but that they could do themselves, along with like the Italian twist of the specialty wine and the special fresh pasta and things like that.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
And another person was wondering, how do you reach out to EBT customers?
Yeah, well, mostly just the farmers markets. That's a good question. That's a good trying to reach people that could take advantage, right, of all of the CSA and the virtual farm stand. I mean, we can accept WIC checks for food, so you know, it should be easy to be able to accept that. Except I guess the software wouldn't accept it, so you'd have to have somebody mail that in or hand it to you if they wanted to sign up for a CSA. But since we can accept WIC, we should be able to, if it's a check or another method. But mostly we just take it at the farmer's market. I haven't gone that far, but that's a really great thing to explore for sure. I'm going to write that down.
Great. And we have another question. What's the best way to get client emails? In person, on a website, or are there other ways that you collect people's contact information?
Yeah, well, with the software, like with the CSA software, they have to put it in, you know, when they're signing up. But through blog posts, that way, if they sign up, I've just simply, well, also off of, you know, when they pay through PayPal, the email's there too, so you can get it from there. So, but mostly I think the MailChimp is used through the CSA software for me.
Great, thanks. And someone else was wondering, can you explain a little more about your virtual farm stand? What is that and how did you set it up?
Yeah, it's just basically, it's a group. So if you go on Facebook and you create a group, so you could create your own farm, you know, whatever your farm name is, group. And basically you could sell things from there. So there's this option to sell, and you just put in the information of what you want to sell. You can also post your sales posts not only on your site, but to other local sites from there. I tend not to do that because they're not really related with food, but there might be other groups in your area that it would be pertinent to. But so you can post sales there, you can post discussions, and then once you close that sales window, you can say that you've sold it and remove the post or remove commenting for it, so that, you know, if you want to start a new post. But if you'd like to look at mine, and you could join mine if you wanted, and just to kind of see how things work, it's called Serendipity's Virtual Farm Stand. Just go ahead and request to join, and then I'll add you, and you can just kind of poke around and look at what I'm doing there, if that might help you out.
Great, thank you.
But people, let me just add, people do have to request to join, and I have posted that on my regular farm page that we have a group going. And once they request to join, you add them, and then you know, they're able to also share information. That you have to approve it first, but they could share a recipe or a picture of something, which is really helpful because it seems like it starts to take on a life of its own, where people are talking about your produce and getting other people involved and things like that. So
great, that sounds good. Kind of your customers are doing some of your marketing for you then, it sounds like.
Yeah.
That's always good. And do you find that different social media platforms reach different audiences, or is it all kind of the same?
No, I do think that some people, you know, don't use Facebook at all, and they only use Instagram. And some people use both. that's why it's really just really good to put, you know, to link them together. Some, you know, you get alerts with Facebook, but with Instagram, you don't get alerts. It's just kind of what you're seeing at the time, unless you actually go looking for that particular, you know, page. So, but if you, but with Facebook, people are able to see things first or be alerted to things. And when they comment, they're able to be alerted to more comments. So that's a little more involved. So some people want to keep it light and just look at Instagram, but some people, you know, seems like older people use Facebook more, younger people use Instagram more, and then there's crossover, of course, but so good to catch everyone for sure.
Great, thanks. And then we had another question. Someone was wondering if you know if there are grants for opening drive-through farmers markets. Have you heard of anything related to these?
No, but I like that idea.
Yeah, I think there has been some discussion of that out there. So the California Alliance of Farmers Markets might be a good place to find out more information about that if you're located in California, because they're a good network to be involved with for those types of questions. So I think I'll send out the last call for questions. If there's any last questions, please write in. And while we're waiting, if someone's sort of new to social media and had to choose one platform, which one would you recommend?
Probably Instagram. Yeah, I think Instagram. It's really about the pictures, and so people, you know, you're able to avoid a lot of politics and other things that people don't necessarily want to see right now, I think, and just, you know, heavy things that come across on Facebook a lot of the times. You know, you're able to just look at pretty pictures and see the things you want to see instead of, you know, seeing a lot of other things that might bring you down right now. So I feel like Instagram would be the one.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. That was a great presentation, and I think we're going to wrap things up. So, Jamie, again, thank you for taking time out of your busy day to be here with us. And I think you mentioned that if you have additional questions, Jamie is open to having you email her, so we'll send out that contact information in the follow-up email. And we'll just do a couple wrap-up slides and then sign off. So as I mentioned before, this webinar is part of a farmers marketing series that the CCOF Foundation is putting on, and there has a web page that has the recordings of past webinars, and you can also find about upcoming events through our newsletter. And in June, we will be having a Biodynamic 101 webinar for growers, so check that out. Also, the CCOF Foundation is currently accepting applications for our higher education and vocational future organic farmer grants. So if you have a student in your life or are a student who's studying organic agriculture, check out our website for more information. And thanks again for everyone who joined us this afternoon, and again for Jamie for the presentation. Please fill out your evaluation form when it pops up after you close out of the webinar. It helps us improve our offerings and get new ideas for future webinars and events. And just note that the way GoToWebinar does their evaluations, that the evaluation is not anonymous, so it is attached to your name, but we appreciate all forms of feedback, including constructive criticism, so let us know what you think. And with that, we will end the webinar, and just everybody take care and stay safe.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for attending. Have a good one, you guys.